Hello again, this is TL Media, and welcome to What I've Been Watching for August 8th. Some quick blurbs about things I've watched in theaters or streaming the past couple weeks. General spoiler warning, but I think the only one I actually spoil here is Old, so I'll try to add a time skip for that particular section or something. Alright, and movie number 1 is Old. Real talk, I've been a Shyamalan apologist for a really long time, except that movie, fuck that. And I think Old really showcases both his greatest strengths and his greatest weaknesses as a storyteller. Old has a great Twilight Zone type premise, and it utilizes some creative camera work and editing tricks, and overall the storyline did a good job at keeping me in suspense. However, some of the dialogue is pretty bad and overly on the nose, especially for the kids, and it doesn't quite stick the landing. This is where I'll spoil it, so if you ignored the warning at the beginning of this video, this is your last chance. But if you want to duck out now, I'm giving Old 3 half-size sedans out of 5. Alright, now on to the spoilers. The ending dragged on way too long, like it felt the need to wrap up every unanswered question in a neat little bow. I haven't read the graphic novel this was based on, but I've been told it basically ends with every major character dying on the beach, and no big reveal about what's going on or explanation or anything like that. I didn't have a problem with the big pharma plot twist in and of itself, because I feel like if a magic beach like that existed in real life, someone probably would use it for that kind of purpose, but again, it over-explains everything and drags it out way too long. I feel like if the movie just ended fade to black with the middle-aged brother and sister making sandcastles, this would have been a solid 4-star movie for me, but as it is, again, Old gets 3 half-size sedans out of 5. Number 2, The Green Knight. Based on what I do know about the original poem, The Green Knight follows the basic events fairly closely, but it puts a unique, dreamlike, and almost folk horror twist to it. It very much maintains the universal themes of responsibility, mortality, and coming of age, while making them resonate with a modern audience, with Dev Patel providing a strong and much-needed human center to the film. Both the natural landscapes and environments and the more surreal imagery are absolutely gorgeous and give the film a sense of scale that would rival something with double the budget. As a fan of the genre, it was so refreshing to see a fantasy movie, especially an Arthurian adaptation, that goes for character and atmosphere over action. Don't you dare torrent this movie, because God knows we need more like it, and I'm definitely gonna aim to see it again sometime this week. The Green Knight receives 5 enchanted cumrags out of 5. That was kind of vulgar, I'm sorry. Right, next up is Censor. I've seen a lot of praise for this movie on my social medias, and while there were aspects of it I did really like and I didn't regret spending time watching it, overall Censor left me pretty lukewarm. It uses the video nasties panic in the 1980s UK to tell a story about trauma, repression, and guilt, and also touches on the tendency to turn art and fiction into a scapegoat in times of social instability. It reminded me a lot of a movie I saw a few years back called Barbarian Sound Studio that I'd really recommend checking out if you enjoyed this one. But the major problem that I have with Censor, and other genre homage or throwback type movies in general, is that they just end up reminding me of better films that I could be watching instead. Also, the plot and direction was generally nothing I haven't seen before. However, the final 30 minutes were my favorite part of the film because it commits the most to the strange blending of fiction and reality. And the central performance was good, and I loved the aspect ratio shift towards the end of the film, so Censor gets 3 VHS tapes out of 5. And last but certainly not least is Annette. Full disclosure, I love musicals, I love weird art house films, and I also have an embarrassing schoolgirl crush on Adam Driver, so I feel like this movie was practically made for me. I also really like the director's other film, Holy Motors, and while Annette does have a similar visual style and similar themes, Annette also has a far more linear and accessible narrative. So if Holy Motors was a bit much, you might enjoy this more. And by similar themes, I mean stuff like identity, performance, and the relationships between performers and the public, which is seen in Annette through the story of a failing relationship, male insecurity and entitlement, media fascination with celebrity couples, and the exploitation of child stars and prodigies. The movie gets pretty dark at times, but there's also a lot of humor, and it's overall pretty campy and theatrical, which keeps it from getting too depressing. Although the ending scene with Driver's character and his daughter was definitely a cathartic tearjerker. Appropriately enough, this movie is basically a full-on opera with only short spoken-word interludes in between the singing, and I thought the production, instrumentation, and performance of the music was incredible, and I'll definitely be bumping this soundtrack for the foreseeable future. I give Annette 5 creepy child puppets out of 5. So yeah, I think Annette and The Green Knight are probably tied for my favorite films of the year so far, but assuming that we keep COVID under control here and the theaters stay open and shit doesn't keep getting delayed, the rest of the year is pretty stacked too, although, to be honest, it'll be hard to beat those two films for me. I'm probably gonna see The Suicide Squad sometime this week and again rewatch The Green Knight. And there's also a lot coming out later this month and in the fall, especially with the horror movies that I'm really looking forward to seeing as well. I'm really excited to see Dune too because I freaking love Denis Villeneuve, or however you say it. And I binge read the first 3 or 4 novels in the series at the beginning of lockdown, so it'll be interesting to see what he does with the material. Right, and that was it for now. I have a pizza waiting on the counter that I've been waiting to eat until after I recorded, so the dairy wouldn't mess up my speech, so I am gonna stop recording right now and just immediately get on that.